Hi ladies and gentlemen, in today's video, this is a video in the 60 minutes series video in which I will be spending 60 minutes with craft. Let's get started. Okay, so this is the working environment for this 60 minutes. I'm going to start the timer here, and also I'll switch to my cue cards with which has been built using the excellent IA presenter. Okay, so what you have in front of you is, first, if you are already a subscriber to my YouTube channel, you already know that I produce a lot of videos about craft, and most of the videos will tackle a specific subject or specific area surrounding my use of craft. And for this specific video, which is a 60 minutes session with craft, I'm going to work with the application to build some complex document that eventually I'll share as a web page. And the objective for that video is for you to learn, if you are a new user to craft or if you are looking to use craft, then you could probably learn a lot of things related to how craft is performing as a note-taking or document production application. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this video. And the other reason is for those who already know about craft, maybe you'll learn a few things along the way. As a experienced user in craft, I kind of think that I know a few things with this software, so I hope that you will learn a few things with this video. So the first thing I want to talk about is the working environment with craft. So what you see right now is it's a document that I have created, which has a title, and what you see on the left is the sidebar, which allows me to navigate in my craft library within or select the theme I want to work in. And also you'll get a few features like the daily note feature of craft and the search, where you can enter your search queries and then you will be presented with the result. And also there's the fourth segment here, which are notifications that will pop up there if you share your document on the web and people are dropping comments on your document, provided that they are in a where the comments are enabled. And also if you are collaborating with other people within your specific team, then people can mention you in the team so that they can trigger your attention for a specific subject or specific matter. So this is the sidebar on the left. And on the right, there is a little vertical bar here where you can select or choose things that you want to do, like inserting some type of blocks in the current document that you are viewing. This is here the formatting of what you have actually selected in your document. You'll be able to format the block you're in, like the title, the content, the grouping, which I'll talk about later, and also some color palette that you can use for coloring content in your document and also setting the font. You'll be able to select a page style for the document or the page you are currently viewing. There's a bunch of things to talk about in this panel. And also you have the information or the page information panel, where you'll see when the document was created, when the last time it was updated, which author created the document. Also, you'll be able to start this document. So if you start this document here, where you'll see this appearing in this list in this Smarts folder called Start, and then you will see the document that you just started. So let's go back to this document. Also in the page information, you'll see the document activity. So craft works and records your activity when you are working in a document, and then this is where you'll be able to what happened with this document, who updated it, and who modified the content of the document. So since I'm the only one working on it, then this is the history of the action that was done with this document. You'll also be able to see previous backup. So the document itself was created on the last Friday, and since then there's been 2 changes compared to this document. So I could revert back those changes if I had to restart this document. This is where I can delete the document. The document is actually is unsorted. It is not in any folder. I could go in the unsorted file smart folder here and then click this document and then bring that in a folder. And then if I return to this, you'll see that in the information, the location has changed. I can click on this and it will bring me to this specific folder. I can change, obviously, the spelling of this document. I'll be writing in English, and there are some statistics that are available at the page level, at the document level, at the page level. If this is a page within a document, I'll explain more later about that. And also, if I have a selection currently in my document, then this is the statistics that I'll be able to see for this specific block where I'm in. And also, there's a few actions that I can select there, depending on what is currently selected in my working document. And the section for the craft extensions. Graph extensions development has been put on pause by the craft team, so I won't spend any time in this because I consider that to be a work in progress, and it's not worth my time for this specific video. On the top here, you'll see there is a list of comments. If people are commenting on the document when you are collaborating, then you'll be able to see those comment there. You can add yourself a document, a comment. This is a comment. Don't forget to share this document on the web. So I can do some formatting in this. I can do a link. I can select this as like some kind of block section, and then I can send this comment here. So this is where you'll see the comment at the top of this document, because this is at the document level. I can also see comments at the page level, provided that there is a page created within this document. So this is the basic working environment in Craft. And I'll show you later how to use the share options, where this is where it's called share, but actually what you can do is to publish this. You can export this, you can transfer that to another application like a text editor if you wish. And so this is, I'll talk about that later in the video. And then also this section where I can create a new document, I can create a new deal, a quick note for this specific day. So I can enter that. This is the day that I'm recording the 60 minutes video in Craft. So again, if I go in this daily note, I can see my note for today. I won't spend too much time in the daily note feature because I'm not using it for a different reason. You can look at my past videos where I explain the reason why. I'll be focusing on the creation of a specific document for today in this video. So again, I'll go back to this view. I'll click on this document. The interesting thing about the Craft application is that you can kind of clear those things out or remove those panel out if you want to focus on the content. Like if I want to remove this portion, I can remove also this portion there, and then I can be more focused on the content itself. I could also resize this window here if I want to work side by side with another application. I could even enter in the what they call the focus mode. If I do that, then I'll remove even the top bar of the document, and then I'm ready to work on that. And this is what I'll do for a while. The other thing I want to talk about is the slash menu. The slash menu is something that is popular in many applications, and Craft is no exception in that respect. So if when you are in a document here, if I type slash on my keyboard, then you'll see a pop-up menu with all the most common function or feature that can invoke from that menu. So if you are a keyboard type of guy, then you are able to do that from the keyboard. So I'll just do a quick tour of what's available. So it's mostly about formatting what I'm currently doing in this current block. So if I want to see a list here, I can select a to-do list and then type enter. And this is the first block of this document. So again, as you can see here, there's a way to change common errors with Craft because I set it to be in English. So I can click on that, enter, and then I can add another to-do item in this list. If I type slash again, like this, I can also select some title. For that, if I do that, I'm still in the list to-do list checkbox. So I'll type backspace, and then I invoke again the this menu. I can select a few styling. If I want to do a subtitle, this is a subtitle, enter, /. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that you can do from this menu. Those are mostly about formatting the content of the block, but some other are for moving things around, like move this to this specific document, move this to the daily note, insert a file, and insert a table, insert some snippet, which is a code block, for example. Escape will remove the slash menu. Again, I'll type slash. Insert a table, snippet, a separator. I can do some action like copy, paste, and things like that. I could convert that to a document. This is for the current block in which I am right now. So this would create a new document with this specific block, which is empty right now. It doesn't make sense. If I type backspace, I can move up one level in the menu. I can set a cover image. So let's start with that. I'll select a cover image here. I want to insert that from Unsplash. So I'll try to select a document like this one, not a document, but an image. Options there are pretty limited. I can choose another image, I can download this specific image, and I can remove it, and that's pretty much it. I cannot do anything related to this specific image. I'll remove that. I'll remove this block too. The next thing I want to show you is importing some content in this document. As you can see on my desktop, there's 3 files. There is a Markdown file here. There's a PDF file, and there is a MP4, which is a video I can import into this document. Let's say I'm starting with this file here. It's a Markdown file. So I'll click the file, and then I'll drop it within this thing. There's 2 ways to import this specific type of file. I can insert it as a list of block, or I can insert it as a file. So let's try as a file. So it will create the file itself within the document, and it will upload the file in the cloud. If I double click on that, this is where I'll be able to see the content of the file. It was in a Markdown format, so you can see that there's a lot of formatting that are standard in Markdown. So this is, I could also open that specific file in another application that supports Markdown file. If I close that, so you could insert a bunch of files this way if you want, depending on your needs. This is not something that I do quite frequently, so I'll delete that again. I'll do the same operation, and then I'll bring that as a list of blocks. So as you can see, it is Craft will import the file. It will also kind of process the markdown, and it will display the actual file as it is in the markdown file. So as you can see, there's a bunch of formatting already in place. This is a focus block, which brings the line, a vertical line on the left. There is some header also. And if I want to see what is this header, the only way for me to do that is to I'll exit the focus mode, and then I click the formatting, the styling. So I can see here, this is a level 3 header. It's not very obvious if you don't have this displayed always displayed on the screen, but this is the way you can see what is currently used as a formatting for this header. So I'll again enter in the focus mode for that. The other thing you'll see is that the content is very narrow within my window. So again, I can exit of this thing, I can go into styling, and then I'll select to use a wide page instead of a narrow page. I'm not the guy who wrote this specific document, so I won't show for now the author of this. What I can do now is, this is a document that I want to keep in this format, but not to take the top level document. So what I'll do is I'll select all those blocks in this document, and then right-clicking here, I can group that list of block. And what will happen is that Craft will create another document within this document, but this document is a page. This is an article presented as a page in Craft. So this is the document itself, which is a page within this document, as you can see here at the top of the window. And if I click on that, I can return to this. I can select the block. If I want to add more content to that, I can do that. So here, no, I think I have to double click on that to be able to add content to that. But as you can see here, you can turn this page as a card. So there's 2 ways to create a page in Craft. This is the actual page, but you can also work with what makes Craft an app that is pretty unique, is that you can create page card within a document, and this is how it would look. So I could apply this style, I could change the way it is shown with a specific background like this one, and I'll click on apply style, and then this is what you are going to see. One of the things that I would like to see coming is the ability to center this card within the page, because as I'm using a wide version of the document, this is all left aligned. If I go back in the page formatting here and I'll remove the wide page option, then it makes sense to have this type of wide card. But as soon as I hit this white page here, well, this is not as good looking as it was before. So I'll go back and I'll turn back again in a page like it was before. From this document, if I go there, I could format this document, this page, differently than the master document at the top here. So again, I could go here, I could select the auto style option, and what the Craft Assistant will do is, by looking at the content of this document, it will suggest a few things in this styling here. I don't see a lot of things that I like. Maybe this one is nice. I can set, if I set this like that, so you can see you can play around with the auto formatting if you wish. In this style here, I could come here and add a cover image, which I'll also choose an image from Unsplash. If I select something like that, so as you can see, you can get a very good looking document with very low efforts in doing so. If I go back in this document here, you'll see that there is a little thumbnail which was updated according to the page content. So that's very nice. Next, I could also use the assistant here. So this document, I can ask the Craft Assistant, which is based on ChatGPT 3.5. I could ask kind of write me a summary for that. So what I'll do is I'll just go here. I'll have a page break, and from here, I'll select the template. There is no, I don't have a template in there. I'll show you what I want to do. I'll go back in the navigation sidebar here. I'll go in this place where I would like to have a templates that I'm using a lot in another space, like in the inbox. I'll go in the template here. I often use this template to do some kind of summary of a document. So what I'll do is I'll select all the content of this template. I'll go back in the for testing purposes. I'll create a new template, a new document in there. It will create me this template, as you can see here. And then when I go back in the research document in this place here, I will use a template at the bottom of this document in order to generate a summary of this document. So I go back here, I'll invoke the slash menu, I'll type TE for insert template. I'll select the template that I just created. The template is called the metadata section. So as you can see, there's this this page break here, which is not needed. I'll just select that, kind of like this. So right there, I'll invoke the assistant and I'll ask the assistant to summarize this document for me. So enter, and then it will work, and it will eventually come up with a summary. Usually it's faster than that, and for some reason it is not working right now. I'll let it do its work. Maybe it's because the document is too long, I'm not sure. What I can do is cancel loading. I'll try that again. Here we are. So it is actually summarizing the document. And then what I'll do with that is that I will copy this and I will paste that in the summary section. And then the good thing would be for me to first read the document and see if this summary is reflecting the content of the document itself. I could also ask the assistant to generate a list of keywords based on this document content. So I'll again invoke the assistant and I'll ask it to generate some keywords for that. And the reason for those keywords is to be able to do some kind of organization of content. If you have more document within your space, then it is fun to have a way to have keywords assigned to all the specific documents. I could do the same thing here with the hashtags, like that, and it will again eventually generate hashtags for this. And I see that it is kind of having a problem. I'll ask it again. And sometimes, and most of the time actually, the tags, the hashtags and the keywords are pretty much the same. So this is for me a way to kind of create a metadata section for each document. And by using Craft page breaks, which were added in the Craft release earlier this year, it helps you to kind of visually organize your document in a very nice way. The reason this section is all using, if I go in the styling, it is a block with a specific background color. The reason for that is because I'm using a color code to identify content that I did not write myself. In this case, it is the Craft Assistant who did it for me using the ChatGPT behind the scene. So for me, it is very important to separate the content that I wrote from the content that I did not write. The other thing is I could add tags in there. I could write something from my own point of view about this document. This is where I would type the text here. Those are very simple blocks, which are the block itself is, if I remove that, you'll see that's only the line. If I type in the block, it will make it explicit visually. And there is a specific color assigned to that. I can add a focus decoration, which will bring the vertical line on the left of the block. But usually I keep it like that. And as the following block is using a different color, then they will be separated with this white space. But if I do select the same color, the same formatting attributes than the previous block, then Craft will merge those two blocks visually. They're still separate, but in visually they will be kind of the same. I think it's the color here. No, it's not the one. If I go there, yeah, this one here. If I select a different color, I don't know which one it is. If I select this one, if I select this one, see, those are two blocks, different blocks, because you can see the handle here, which I can move the block around. But because they share the same formatting attributes, Craft will merge those together. I'm not sure that I like that. I prefer to have this way, and then maybe even use the original color for that. Also, there is the cross-referencing here, which happens to be a backlink, the backlink feature of Craft. This is a way for me to refer to another document using the @ sign. So as I'm typing @ there's a list of recently used page or document that will be shown here. And then from there, I can just hit enter, and then it will create a deep link for this specific document. And if I want, I can click on that, and it will bring me to this document. If I want to go back where I came from, if I go in the backlink section, I can click on that and see where it is actually referencing. So I click here, and it goes right there where the block contains the backlink. This is one of the feature that I like about Craft. It's not perfect. It's not some. It's very specific to Craft. Some other application will implement this feature differently or with more feature, like a wiki type link. I think it is something that we can see in Bear 2.0, which is currently in beta. But this is the way Craft is using backlinks. So as you can see here, this is a pretty complex page that sits within this document. So this is something we often see on Slack or in Circle. In the Craft community, some people always ask, how should I organize my documents within Craft? There's two things. The first is a document itself, as it grows in content, then it will maybe want to have a strategy to organize a specific document content if it becomes bigger and bigger over time. But there's another way of organizing content in Craft is by using folders on the left here. So as you can see, there is a folder which is called a folder. I can right click on that, select edit, and then change the name. This is knowledge base. I can select an icon here, and if I have a brain, I do have a brain, I can select the brain. And also I can type, this is a description of this folder. And as soon as I click update, then the content of this folder that is selected on the left is shown here on the right, and this is where the folder description will be shown. I could also create a document here where this is a description of this folder, and then I could type some text here which will describe this specific folder. I'll show you where I'm going with that. What I'll do right now is I'll invoke raycast, and I'll generate some paragraph here, and I'll select that. So let's say this is the description of the this folder. When I'm coming here, I can just right click on that, and I'll pin that specific document to this folder, and this is where you can have a description, a more complete description of this folder. And this is in a way, some kind of a way to organize content in your craft environment by using folders. You can have many folders within folders, so nested folders are supported. I'm not aware of any limits in that, but there's a way to create a folder within another folder. It's in a nested folder and create, and this is where you'll be able to put your document within this specific folder. As you click on that, then you don't have any description because I did not have a description to this specific folder. If I go back in this document here, and then I go in the page information there, you'll see that you can see the full path of this document location, which is nice. And from there, I can click on the link and go back directly to where the document is. So I can remove that, right click, delete. And also if I go back to this folder, so you can pin a document. Sadly, there's no way to pin a folder, which could be interesting to pin a specific folder here and have it displayed at the top in this section here, but it's not possible right now. You cannot also bookmark a document. The closest thing that I have found in Craft for bookmarking a document is the use of star here, like I did earlier in the video. So I can see a list of documents that has a star on them. By the way, there's a way to display this content differently depending on the document content. I can show a specific tile. I can show a block like that, which I like a lot. If you are using cover image, then this is the way it is displayed. And I remember the first time I started to play with Craft and I was able to create those tile, I found that to be very delightful, and this is one of the reasons that brought me to using Craft. So again, this is the way you can change, and you can also change as a list view, and you can change a sort order here depending on how many days it was created. So yeah, this is the way you can organize information by using folders. But again, returning to content organization within a specific document. For me, it depends on the content of that you are creating. If this is a research project, then you might divide your content in different pages or cards depending on your needs. As you saw earlier, when you have a lot of articles that you are importing within Craft, then you might decide to use this specific page formatting. But if you are creating more visually appealing page, you can then use them as cards instead, and you will display in a much better looking way if you wish. The one thing that you have to understand is that when you are using a document and you go in the page information here, the ability to view backups. Backups are at the document level. It's not. It's not applying to page level. I mean, you won't be able to restore a specific page by using this feature here. What you can do is at the document level. If you want to restore a specific page, then you have to restore the enclosing document. So it's a very important thing to understand, because depending of this of your use of Craft, you might decide to create, instead of creating page within documents, you might decide to create different documents in order to be to keep the ability to restore individual document. And this is a way for you to have a better backup strategy while using Craft. Personally, it's very project dependent. I don't have a single rule for that. It's very up to me when depending on my use cases. Again, if I go in this document, I select this specific block. If I go in the information, I can see how many characters, words I have, how many characters without space. And there is one block selected. I can have the same information if I select multiple block, which I'll do by using the this, and this. I go back here, I can see that I have 3 blocks selected and the actual amount of word characters and the reading time that they should take for a normal reader. So that's about the use of documents, page, card style. I'll do another demonstration here. If I type /, I can insert a card here. And in this card, I can again select some kind of formatting for this specific card. As you can see, this is only for the background images is based on when I'm selecting selecting the specific style, it's only for the icon there. I can also change the font for this card here. If I want to use the fun one, the smart one, or again, the modern one, and I am applying this style. So the card here is actually a page. If I double click on that, from there, I can give it a title, card title. I can also take a document here. So I imported this Markdown file. I can import this PDF file. And a PDF file, there's only one way to import it. And this is like I did initially with this Markdown file. If I double click on that, it will open the preview window, which I see where I can see the actual PDF file. From there, I can select text. I can use all the annotation tools that comes on the Mac with the preview tool. I have the page thumbnail, so that's very nice. But you have to understand that if I try to search within Craft, my understanding is that I won't be able to search within a specific PDF file. It's only searching for blocks written in Craft. So this is a major problem for me. I would say if I select that, I'll select copy this, and I'll try to find this here, enter the result. So the information is right there in the PDF file, but it's not searchable. And it could be a deal breaker for many users. The other thing I can do, if I want to look back at how it looks now, the card is turned out into a card again. I don't know why it switched back to a page, but how now I see the card again. I changed the title, and since the document, the page here has no styling, I can select some formatting here. And when I go back to the document containing the card, you won't see anything because it's the simple card style. If I go here, you'll see a different styling. And then I have the block where it's the PDF file I have created, inserted, imported. The other thing I can import is a video. So it says uploading, it's a short video. I can change the formatting of this video. It's a bit fuzzy. I don't know why. I think it's because I recorded that on a MacBook Air and the resolution is lower. And the way to display videos in Craft is only by double clicking on it. I cannot play it within the window here. I have to double click on it, and then it will show me the actual video in a much better resolution, by the way. So this is something I recorded earlier today. And also you can see that there is nothing much you can do about that. There's nothing that can be done here because it's already filling the space. If I want, I can select it to respect the aspect ratio of the video. So this is why it is displaying there. I hate those gray bars on the right and the side on each side of this video. I think it should be just the video itself. I think they are working on that, but I mean, I don't like that at all. If I again double click, and you can see that I have a nice video player. And when I'll be sharing this page on the web, I'll be able to see this video again like that. So this is where you can just import different type of content within Craft. As you can see here, if I go in this plus sign here, I can insert a card which will be created. It actually create a page. I said earlier, I can create a table. I can insert a file attachment. I can insert other type of files too. I can insert formula. I'm not very into mathematics, but you can insert text formula, and then you can start writing formula there. I could try that maybe just here. Is this something that's possible? Yeah. So yeah, this is the way you can enter a formula. You can also enter some code, and when you do that, oops, I do that code block here, and you can select the type of code that you are actually, no, this is the way it is displayed, but you can change the language, and this is where you will be able to set what type of code block it is. I'm not very into that either, so that's why I'm not doing much in this area. The formatting of a document, again, there's a lot of option over there. If I go, I can change the, I'll go in the article there. I can change the style of the font. This is the only 4 options that you have in Craft for now. You can change that to the mono style or the round style if you wish. It is more apparent for the title. So most of the time I'm using the system type, the system styling. Also, you can decide to show the author here, but what I can do is go back here, and then I'll be showing the author at this state, at this level, but not at the page level. I can have 2 different settings depending on my needs. If you want to play around with that, the background can be some kind of gradient that you can control here. You can set it to be from there to there, and then you'll see exactly what you have right now. This is a styling that it's kind of interesting, but I would kind of change that the other way around. And there is no way to change that the other way around. So I have to go here and then select something like that. I don't know if it was. This is something that is more in line with the physical world. You can also change the, there are some presets that you can use. I very rarely change that because I think they're too funky. I prefer to have a better control of the styling of my document. So sometimes I'll be just like that. And then I will change myself the color that I want to use for something that is more toned down like that. Also, again, you can show, like I showed you, you can use the auto styling. The auto styling is using the Craft Assistant, which is talking to the cloud to have a understanding of the content of the document. If this is something that you don't like, and that you don't want Craft to send things over the internet because of privacy issues, then you have to turn that off in Craft if you don't want to use the Craft Assistant and the auto styling option. So that's pretty much about the use of styling. The table option, you can insert a table, and there's a few presets here. If I select that, this is a 3x3. I can have a title line, and then when I do that, I can select the header to have a header row and a header column too. This is a header column, and then you can here enter values. Also, you can have some formula like the sum above there, and then you have, it's not Excel, it's not Notion from a capability perspective, but it's pretty nice, and it helps fill some basic needs when you want to have a very simple table in your document. It's far from perfect. There is no drag and drop of this, that you have to cut this line, paste it at the other place that you want to have it. So there is no notion of summary line. So if I do things here, I have to kind of mess around a bit to insert a row here. It's not perfect, but it does the job for very simple. As you can see here, I have to go here like that. If I do that, you see that the formula has been updated. So that's for the table. You can also move things around using some common keyboard combination. And also you can select that like that, / bold, and then you'll be able to bold every single cell that are currently selected. You can also select center like that. I can do the same thing here, / center, / bold. So it's pretty decent format table feature in Craft. It's not bad. I do use it here and there in my own documents. The backlink, the sharing it of, okay, let's share this document here. So there is Craft is pretty good at creating very simple website, or sharing a document for other people to read or even comment on that. The sharing of this document is very simple. You go over there, you hit the share button here, and this is where you'll be able to share as a web page. So I'll create this page here. So it has created the website. It should be available right now. But before going to the website, I'll show a few options. You can password protect this document, which could be very useful for some type of use cases. You can set an expiration date for this link to be active, which again is pretty cool for some project. You can decide if you want to let people, the visitors who knows the link to the document, to be able to drop comments on that specific document, or you can remove this feature altogether, or you can also remove the ability to view any comments posted by users. So I'll leave it on because I want to show you how it is done. And also you can have some options like to show the author of this document. If you want to do some promotion to the craft team, you can decide to have this specific created with Craft logo at the bottom of the document. I'll leave it on so you'll be able to see that. And I'll also, if you want to enable indexing of this document by a search engine, this is where you will be able to enable that. Also, you can decide if you want people who are using Craft to be able to download the document as a template. This is where you can do that here. I'll leave it on so you'll see how we can do that. And also, there's a analytics that comes with this feature, provided that you are on the right subscription plan. You'll be able to see people coming to this to the web page, and you'll see that appearing there. So this document has been created in this specific domain. There's a path, so the document will be under the crafted.numericCitizen.me with this specific path. Testing only. So I'll change that to testing only instead. Click save. and then I'll copy that, and I'll switch to Safari and create a new tab, and then paste the link here. And this is the document that I have created in Craft. So it looks pretty much the same, except that there's one thing that bothers me every time I share a document on the web with Craft, is the fact that the wide option that I had selected in Craft is not available on the web. It's always in this narrow thing, and this is kind of a bit frustrating to see that. Speaking of comments, I remember at the very beginning of this demonstration of this session, I added a comment within Craft about this document, so you can see those comments here. And also I can decide to write myself another comment like that. I have to enter. This is another issue that I find very frustrating. I am myself a Craft user. I'd like to be able to just use the sign in with Apple option so that I could just sign in, then enter my name, my credentials, and then boom, I would be able to sign in to post comments with this document. But right now it's not possible. I don't know why it's been like that like forever, but you get the drill. This is the way you could enter a comment. This is here the same option. You can just type comment here and then send it to the author, and the author itself will receive a notification, provided that those are enabled within the by the Craft user. There will be an email notification and or a push notification sent to their device. So this is the shared document. It's pretty much the same as what we add within Craft environment, within the Craft application. Sometimes when I'm using Craft myself with the web version of Craft, which is also available, I find myself sometimes to be to forget the fact that I'm not using the native version, but I'm using the web version. This is a side note here that I wanted to share with you. So let's see what's the card title, the card here we had earlier. So it was this PDF file. If I want to see that file, then you'll be able to download it within Safari, and then this is what you get. If I go back here, I can also play the video I added earlier in this presentation, and I'm still waiting for the video to start. I don't know if it needs to download the whole thing. It's not playing. I'll click on that. I'll try again. I do have a fast internet connection, but it's not playing right now. But you get the idea. You can do that. There's also this. If you remember, I had this option here where I allowed the visitors to duplicate this document for their own use. So it is on right here. If I switch back to the web version, this is where you get the duplicate option. This will download the file to your environment. So it's working on that, and it will ask me in which space I want to put that template. So I'll just remove that. Also, you see here that I am in a specific card, but the document itself was this one. So I can go back one level up. This is one of the way the Craft, the web version of a document works. If I go back again in this subpage, which you see here, you can change the. I think it has to do that. If I go here, you can change to the classic mode where you don't see this the previous page on the left, or I can use the column mode. As we get deeper in a specific path, you'll see those piling up on the left, and you will be able to go back depending of your desire. If I go back at the root level of this document, you'll see there's a new table of content feature that has been introduced recently in the web version of any shared documents. This is how it is presented, and this is the way this the document here, the page here that is shown there, is you can move around within your document, provided that you are using the right header level in the document. Can go back to a specific portion, and it's pretty fast, it's pretty convenient. I can't wait for that to come to the native apps on the Mac and on the iPad. So you can remove that here, but you won't be able to remove the option over there. It's always there. And again, this is something that could be improved. If I go back here, go back there, and you see at the bottom there is the created with craft. If you want that, it's possible. 99% of the time I remove that. I don't want to tell people that I'm using a specific app to create a specific document, unless this is on purpose. But for this demonstration, you can see how it is easy to enable or disable. The styling of the web page is pretty much in line with what we add in the document. And the nice thing about that is, as soon as you create a change in this specific document in Craft, they will be reflected directly on the web. It's a good thing, but it's also it could be a problematic, because if you have already a long document published and you want to add some content to it, and it takes like a few hours to do so, people could see you adding stuff slowly as you add more blocks, and maybe this is something that you don't want to do. So you have to be aware of this behavior. There is no way, as far as I know, to disable that, except that you create your content in a separate document, and when you are ready, you can just copy and paste those blocks into the publish document, and this is where you'll be able to simulate the publish to action that we see in applications like WordPress. If I go back to the folder here, you can see a list of shared content in my in this specific space. I have two shared content. If I share documents, if I go there, you'll see that I should be able to see the fact that I had one visitor, which is me, that came through this page, and I'm coming from Canada. I was using a desktop browser. It was a direct. I came there because I knew the exact link, and this is the page that I have visited. I went all over the place, so this is what you are seeing, 3 sources here. And also you can see the views. So I moved around this document, so they count as different views, and how much time I spend on that. This is an approximation. I think it's documented on how Craft are calculating that, but this is not an exact science. This is something that gives you only an approximation of how people are spending time in your document. If I go back in the browser and I show you the Craft Bible, which I am the author, you'll see that the content of document can be complex, and it could be very interesting to look around within a browser. So it gives you an idea of how powerful Craft can be to create complex document. And with the table of content feature, I can move around this specific document pretty easily, and it's pretty fast. Usually it works great. The video problem I had a few minutes ago, I don't know why it didn't work, but usually moving around a specific document, it's pretty fast, and it gives you a very good overview of the Craft possibilities for creating a website. So as you can see, I am nearly done with this 60 minutes video with Craft. I hope you like this session. I hope I gave you a good overview of the possibilities that you can that you have with Craft. So if you are not a user of Craft, then you get I think you're getting a better idea of what it is. By the way, I'm not paid by Craft for doing that. It's only on my own time, and I'm not getting a dime for that. So yeah, that's it. So if you liked this video, just hit like. If you don't subscribe to my YouTube channel, I highly recommend that you do so you don't miss any upcoming videos. So again, thank you for watching this whole thing. Thank you for being there, and see you guys for another one. Bye.